Superwoman Summit. Just the energy, just being surrounded with the right people, the right energy, the right mindset. Change that for me. So I was just saying that Tamra is such an amazing, wonderful woman that has walked away from everything that was precious that normally we aim for. We want that spotlight, we want that shine, we want that life, we want that high level. And yet she walked away from it to pursue her own passion of who she is right now and what she's helping people with. This is so exciting. Thank you so much, Tamra, for being here this afternoon. Tell us about yourself and your journey.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Ava. This is
Oops,
amazing.
we don't have your mic.
Uh-oh.
You're hearing him? Oh, sorry. Okay. Maybe it's just me. Okay, they're hearing you. Could you help us and let us know in the chat if you're hearing her? And I'm just the only one?
Hello,
Oh,
hello.
they can hear you. Okay.
You can hear me. Okay, great.
So let me just take something off so I can hear you. Go
Can
ahead.
Can you hear me okay? Okay,
Yes.
wonderful. I'm like, let me try. I can test it again. All right, y'all. I am so happy to be here. Ava, you're amazing. This has been incredible. You guys haven't got to see all of the back end that's been happening here, but she is so prepared herself and our hearts for you. And so Ava, kudos and thank you for this time and this opportunity to speak in to women across the globe who I know need this, because I feel like, just like you said, so many of us are given this picture perfect snapshot highlight reel of what is success and what is life and life abundantly. And yet when you get to that place and you're in experiencing of that, there is void, there is limiting beliefs, there is sadness, there is this need for more. And so we've been stuck in this rat race, in this rat wheel of striving, in this rat wheel of achieving. And that was me. And unknowingly, while medallions were coming on early, and I mean that both figuratively and literally, both in sports and extracurricular activities that then led into businesses, multiple businesses throughout my 20s, I pulled into my driveway one day, and let me paint the picture. I had, two nice cars, a house. We were the youngest in the neighborhood, our quote unquote white picket fence. I had been married for a few years at this point. People called us Barbie and Ken, without us ever calling ourselves that. We had a little boy who was our oldest and a little girl who was our youngest. And my little girl was barely waddling at this point. So I just finished nursing. She was about 9 months old. She walked really early, and I had pulled in after working like a 60-hour work week. And I came in, and instead of waddling to me like I was so anticipating her doing, she turned around and waddled back towards daddy. Now, mind you, a lot of things had been happening at this point. I had a boutique and brick and mortar store. I was helping design a nursing bra for the American market, which was the #1 nursing bra in Australia. I had given up a lot to get to where I was, and really dollar signs and that American dream was what I was chasing. And I thought, if I had the check mark married, and I had the check mark of the kids, and I had the check mark of the career, then I must be happy. But that moment was one of those declaring moments of my life that I'll never forget, because I was not living in integrity. I was not living as the woman that I wanted to be on my tombstone. And my Nana, who just passed away a couple weeks ago, we were thinking through her eulogy and her obituary as I was writing it just in the last 2 weeks, and thinking, wow, she really lived a life. And it wasn't a life of success on the terms of paper. It was a life on success on the terms of relationship, on how she treated people, on the connection she had with the people that she loved, on intimacy, on knowing herself well enough to say, no, I don't like that, and I'm okay with it, and you can be too. And also just adventure and being okay with stepping into something uncommon. And yet nothing looked normal on paper. She didn't have a resume when she walked through the pearly heavens of gates, right? Like, Jesus doesn't look for that. God doesn't look for that. He wants to see your character. He wants to see your heart. He wants to see that you're living abundantly and in prosperity. And what the world teaches us a lot of times associated to money is not what will make you happy. And so I made a choice at that point to turn my life around, and turn my life around in knowing that I was giving away every business card that I had achieved, every college diploma, every certification up until that point, to lean into the things that I did want on my tombstone. I do want to be known as a good wife. I do want to be known as a good mother. I do want to be a sister and a friend. And at this point in my life, I didn't truly know or have an intimate relationship with God. And so understanding identity at that point meant nothing to me, but I knew the things that I wanted in my prayer life since I was a little girl, regardless of how connected I was. And so I actually leaned into mental health. I leaned into the knowing of thyself based on uprooting what was in the past. So I went to a therapist for the first time. And as a doctor, I'm sure you can understand how critical that is to somebody's health, because there are so many pieces of our lives that we suppress. There are so many traditional and normalized coping mechanisms that are okay in society, such as being successful, such as a career overdrive, such as things even in the sexual intimacy realms. There are addictions that people just say are okay. It's okay to drink a glass of wine or a bottle of wine every single night. It's okay to go shopping and have all the things. It's okay to go over and abundant in excessive, not abundance, excessive in the things that are perceived as highlights, the things that are
Right.
perceived as, if I have this, then I'll be happy. And so that exploration in mental health led me to discoveries of suppression. Why was I suppressing? What were the roots of those suppression tactics? Things that occurred in my life, from sexual trauma since I was a little girl, that led into the striving, that led into the coping, that led into my marriage and led into motherhood. And so stripping all of that away, I came into the deep knowing of who I was as a daughter to God, as a daughter of our Father. And it was a moment in my life I'll never forget. It was one of those things that will far outlast any dollar sign, any ping on my phone of you've got a new customer. Those things are cool and they're great to grow community. But at the end of the day, like I said, just about my Nana, it's about connection. And I had no connection with myself when I looked in the mirror. So in addition to my mental space, because of the physical things that I was suppressing, I went into a physical journey. And this physical journey was through fitness. It was something I was always into since I was little, but instead of working on the exterior, I started working from the inside out. And this is exactly why and how I show up for my customers and clients now is I got to integrate. I got to integrate every piece of my life, both passion and pain, into this amazing experience that now allows me to show up every single day in all of those places of integrity. As you know, people talk about wearing all the hats, and we live these fragmented lives. When I go into work, I'll wear this. When I go home, I'll wear this. When I'm with my husband, I'll wear this. When I'm with my friends, I'll wear this. And I was doing that. And it felt like the mask. Remember Jim Carrey's mask? When he puts on the mask and he goes out and he lives this wild life, and then he pulls it off when he gets home. Well, at some point in the movie, the mask is never removed. He can't get it off because he doesn't like the other person, and the mask has now taken priority to who he was. And so my heart for people is that they don't live a masked life, they live a maskless life, and that they get to show up in every single hat and every single moment. Right now, I am also a mom. Right now, I am also a woman. Right now, I am also a daughter and a friend and a spouse, and I am also an entrepreneur. And I don't have to live fragmented. I get to show up like that every moment of every day. And so why, instead of going into your mental health journey, going into your physical health journey, going on a spiritual journey to have these revelations, we shouldn't be doing them one season at a time. It should be simultaneous. That's why when people talk about the morning routine, when you hear about somebody's high achieving morning routine, it's not just doing one thing. They're not just working out. They're not just meditating. They're not just getting into the word. They're not just worshiping. They're not just taking their kids to school, right? There's a plethora of things simultaneously happening, and you get to exist in the present moment of that life when you're not wearing a mask. So what does that mean for what I do today, right? So I got rid of those things and I slowly allowed God himself to build them back into my life without knowing what direction I was going to be going in, other than that tombstone experience of this is who I deeply want to be. And by going to coffee with friends and creating connection with friends and helping them on their mind, body, and soul journey, by taking women on retreats to shake them out of the very experience that I knew would one day happen for so many people, pulling into the driveway and having their loved ones not make eye contact, whether what age their kids were, whether they had kids or not. There's just a societal rat race, an American dream, if you will, that is actually selling falsehood. It's selling fictitious happiness when we have the ability to be joyful and live in joy every single day. And so beyond just your mind, body, spirit, it's that pain and passion dissection. It's that journey that you went on in order to get to the place that you get to serve out of. And a lot of times there's this idea of worth, or this idea of I cannot start a business because I don't have the certifications, or I don't have the history, or I don't have, right? I don't have any of these things. We're always talking about the lack mentality, when in
Yeah.
fact we are abundant, when in fact there are affirmations, and the affirmations that God speaks over us every single day is you are valuable, you are worthy, you are called, you are prosperous, right? And if we start our businesses from that identity, we become a healthy outlet and a healthy source for every single person. You become a magnet, right? And if you're
Yes.
not hearing this right now and you're not magnetized by something, then I'm not showing up in the fullness of who he is. And I believe right now that I am. So I hope that I'm speaking to somebody's heart. I would love to hear questions, thoughts.
Yes.
What do you have for me?
Yeah, we would love to hear some things in the chat that's just resonating for you, or questions that are coming up for you. But I just wanted to also pull, what you just said about what you said about um, what you want on your tombstone. Because you know how we always say that when we design something, we design with the end in mind, but rarely do we do that with our life. Or, we kind of just like go with life, with whatever's thrown in our way, and we go with it. But to really live from, wait a minute, I know I've got all of these things going on. This is actually a very grounding conversation. It's a very grounding conversation. And coming back to, what do I want in my tombstone? Who do I want to be remembered as? What is really important to me? I think is how you have chosen to live your life. You know, that's pretty amazing. So we're in your space right now. I know we're waiting for some people if they have any questions, or any comments that they're
Well,
putting
I have
in.
one question over here. I think her name is Ren. She was saying my marriage blowing up was definitely something that strengthened my faith. And I will tell you, sister, that my marriage was a huge part of that conversation, because I felt like I was existing as a roommate. I felt like I was existing outside of my integrity of the vows that I had taken. And it destroyed so much of our home. And I remember in that growing season of identity, having to learn, what does it really mean to be a wife, and what does intimacy with my husband actually look like? And so reestablishing myself, like I said, from the inside out. When you garbage in, garbage out, right? They talk about this in the kitchen all the time. If you're putting junk food in, you're going to have a physical frame, or your stomach is going to be hurting or something. It's no different in every relationship. If you're putting garbage in to your ears, into your eyes, into your heart, into your head, the only thing that's going to be able to come out of your mouth is garbage. So if you are not speaking words of life over yourself, over your situation, whether it's trials or triumphs, there is a reason for that. And so at that time, especially in my marriage, we stripped back everything. I didn't just strip back my businesses. We stripped back our inner circle, became basically non-existent. We focused in on the nucleus. We stopped watching secular TV. We stopped watching secular music. We stopped going and spending time in secular places. And it sounds extreme and it sounds prude, but I promise you, it was none of that. It was out of desperation of existing. It was out of desperation of wanting to feel instead of suppress. And we found that so much of how we were living our life was based in suppression. If you're sitting every single night watching Netflix with your counterpart right next to you, lacking conversation, lacking eye contact, lacking touch, lacking intimacy with your kids, that's because there's a lot happening. And there's also a lot being fed into you in that moment. And for me, it was things like The Bachelorette and The Bachelor, which seem like so silly. It's just like reality TV, right? Well, reality TV can help you to exist in a false reality of what is love supposed to be. And because your spouse isn't treating you in such grandiose way or expression, they don't love you, but it's the small things, it's the intimate things. Those are the things that matter beyond what is given to you on a screen or what is given to you in music. If you dissect music, any genre of music, there is broken femininity. There is broken intimacy. There is broken love. It's all about the hurt and the pain. And therefore you fixate and you focus on that. And what you focus on grows. So for me, while I was just subconsciously taking in these words since childhood, again, not my parents' fault. It was secularism. It was consumerism. And it was just deposited into me. The things that I was speaking out over myself or my love life or my children, none of them were bringing life. And so I want you to think about this. I want you to think about the process of harvesting. And this is a huge part of how I teach people and how I sit with people in the harvesting process of their life, mind, body, soul, Holy Spirit, and business, right? I believe in head, heart, home, and then your handbag, right? And so recognizing that your being, the who you are and whose you are, is the very critical piece for you to ever build a brand and a business, and not get it the other way around, because I did. Businesses were plethoras, right? There was abundance in business. And even as that was happening, my brand, which is who you are, and my identity was slowly being shed away into nothing. And so you can have a business and you might have a successful business, but it'll be built on the sand and not on the rock, not on a firm foundation. And so you think about this process of harvesting, you think about the time that the seed goes into the ground. Literally on your hands and knees, you're planting your garden, right? Gardening season is happening right now. And that is a very quiet process. That is a very intimate process. You have to touch the thing that's going into the soil. You have to get dirty in that process to hope, to glean, to expect. That is your moment of, I'm going to plant this seed right now in my life, no matter what age you are, no matter what your history is, no matter what your past is, no matter what has previously defined you, an expectancy that a overflowing, abundant flower or fruit or vegetable is going to grow, right?
Yeah.
And you're looking at this process as time investment. I don't plant and expect tomorrow that I go out, it's going to be there. And so often we live our life in this supersonic microwave experience that if I do then this, then tomorrow this will be. This is no different than the prayer life of so many disciples. If I follow Jesus, then everything becomes easy. That's not what he says. That's not what he promises. And so if you get into scripture, you know that the seeding process then has toiling and soiling. And when that happens, it's often quiet. But what is loud? What is loud in that process? The storm, the storms that come in the mist to try and knock that seed out of place, to try and knock that rooted system that's been growing way before it ever hits the soil off its structure, to rid it of the ingredients that it needs to prosper. That storm is a sign that the enemy has discerned your future. The enemy has said, there is something more coming here and I'm going to knock it off its rocker. That happened to me time and time again. And even in the time that I said yes to Jesus and I said, yes, I'm going to experience life and life to the full, the enemy was like, holy cow, this marriage is now a covenant. This family is now a force to be reckoned with. They're not living blinded. They're not living beneath the surface. They're not living masked. I have something I need to do. And so things within our intimate life began to fall apart. And yet we still pursued that mental health, that physical health, our nucleus in our spiritual health. And then the business came. So it wasn't necessarily that the focus and the emphasis was on the thing that creates the abundance or creates the prosperity. The prosperity starts in your head, heart, and home. And so
Yeah.
now, as the rooted system continues to root, even amidst the storm, we're going in and we're soiling and we're toiling, we're providing the necessary ingredient for that fostered system to still plentiful, abound. And we know that you can recognize the fruit on someone else's life, the good fruit on somebody else's life, based on the fruit that they are bearing. Are you bearing a tree that other people can't eat from? Are you bearing from a tree that is maybe in a broken season and it needs some help? It needs some fertilizer. These things are not difficult to come by, but they do take attention. They do take time. They do take you actually pouring into your life in a way that the world doesn't teach you to do. It's getting
Mm-hmm.
quiet. It's getting uncomfortable. It's getting silenced from what everything else is doing in order for you to come out with fury, with flowers, and with fruit.
There's so much goodness in that. I am just like basking in everything that you're saying because, a lot of times we we distract ourselves with something to do. It's the doing, like, when our life is falling apart, we feel like we've got to do something. When things are not working, we got to do something. And you're saying that it's in the quiet, like really getting to listen in the quiet, which is almost counterproductively hard when you feel like things are not working out. And what do you mean? I don't have time. I'm not, I don't have time to be quiet. I don't have time to stay still. I got to get going. I got to get doing, and yet, the transformation happens, really in finding yourself, like what Dr. Erica, talked about just a while ago, finding yourself, being ferociously curious with yourself, knowing that where you are is okay, that everything is right about where you are right now, because then it gives you the opportunity. I mean, these are all, the messages that came across a while ago. It gives you the opportunity from Alina, what Alina said, to take your power back, and I love how you're putting this together. So, Tamra, let us know, how are you helping people now? What's your business model, or how did you take this into something that now helps people?
Yeah, so I love to bring people into that identity piece first and foremost, that being, that knowing of thyself. And so helping people build businesses, helping people establish what happens on the outside of their home by first establishing those inside pieces. And so I take women on international retreats. I have a community membership. These retreats allow people to just stand in the quiet and actually take that time out for themselves so they can go back into their life and build from a place of passion and overflow rather than overwhelm. We also have a
Mm.
membership of women who come, and I am always emphasizing these places first. Tell me about your personal life. Tell me what's going on. Sometimes, because I'm an ordained minister, these things often turn into counseling sessions, and it's never intended. But again, I do not want to see people build businesses because they have an idea. I want them to build businesses that will prosper based on passion, connected to that pain. The thing that makes you unique, and I call this the entrepreneurial thumbprint. It's the thumbprint of being brand and business. Nobody, no matter what certification they have, can teach or serve out of their testimony that is anything like yours. Yours is uniquely yours, no matter what it looks like. You have more hair or less hair on your head than I do. You have different culturalism than I do. You have a different lens, different perspective, no matter what our lives could look like in a replica, right? And so recognizing that allows you to establish that freedom. So the thing that I have for you all today is to get started on that process, both in the journey mapping of your life, and the journey mapping process is taking those pains and passions and learning about the transformation that you took to get to where you are today. And if you're in a place where I was a few years ago, it's exactly the type of people that I love to serve with, pray with, be in community with, because I see you and I'm empathetic towards that. And so being okay to ask for help is so critical. So I'd love to chat with you offline. I'm most active on Instagram. Tamra.andress is my Instagram. And I also have my website, tamraandress.com. But the free gift for today is all a 3-part mini course. It should take you probably under an hour. If you're going to do the activities with it, maybe a little bit longer. But that gives you the jump start to the full Roots and Wings course. We talked about roots, right? That rooted system is so critical for you to understand. And before you can take flight, you have to go back and dissect and replant and uproot. So that's that. And then bringing people in to full abundant prosperity based on that strategic knowing of thyself, that strategic alignment. I believe in vertical alignment of the mind, body, soul, spirit before you ever decide to vertically serve or receive, because that means you're serving from a place of lack rather than a place of abundance. So that's me. I'm so excited to connect with you. You guys can find me in all the places. I have a YouTube channel where I teach weekly. I have a Facebook group. If you're live in the chat, I'll drop the group to you if
Yes,
you're
please
interested.
do. Please do.
And
Yeah,
also
drop
the
your
free mini course.
yes, please do. Thank you for the grace. My course took a different route, so I don't have all of the connections to put on the links. Thank you so much, Tamra. I mean, like, this is so grounding. Everything that you said actually feels so good. It's the perfect connection with Dr. Erica's teaching of just, getting to know yourself, and then you bring us a little bit deeper into grounding. It's just such a great experience. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm coming out of this feeling so loved already, feeling energized. I don't know. Are you guys feeling it? There's an electricity that you bring, combined with the with Dr. Erica's. Oh my gosh, it's just like right now I'm electrocuted. Everything in every cell in my body is just like vibrating and happy. Thank you
Everything
so
is
much.
started and finished in love. And that's exactly what you want your tombstone experience to be, is surrounded by love, with love, and going into the loving arms of the Father. So thank you so much for this.
Oh,
And I appreciate
thank
you. I
you
can't
so
wait.
much, Tamra. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure. Thank you for this time. Awesome.
Bye.
Bye. Wow. 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 Oh my God. I'm so full. Is anyone else full with me? Like we have